Ahead on our news tonight, the Department of Inland Revenue reporting $1 billion in arrears, plus a family in mourning following a tragic car crash. Their heart-wrenching story coming up. And later, the opportunity that may put job seekers back to work. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Kendino Knowles. The Department of Inland Revenue reporting hundreds of millions of dollars in unpaid taxes with claims that businesses have been collecting value-added tax but are failing to pay the government. Bethany McDermott joins us now in studio with more on this. Bethany?
Yes, Kendino, there is nearly $1 billion in unpaid taxes owed to the Department of Inland Revenue, according to Acting Comptroller Shonda Strawn, who says the rate of non-compliance is simply unacceptable. More than 70% of those arrears are from those with commercial properties. But that's not all, Strawn saying that businesses are not being truthful in their reporting.
In total, taxpayers have failed to file or to pay close to $1 billion. We are seeing an increasing number of businesses that are failing to renew their business licenses and their VAT returns. Worse yet, we have identified businesses that are intentionally underreporting to avoid what they are obligated to pay.
As for property taxes, Strawn says 70% of commercial property owners racked up significant arrears, which the department is trying to collect. However, a reassessment was conducted which resulted in more than 51% of commercial properties seeing a not-so-significant tax increase, while more than 65% saw no change in their tax bills. The department is also finding issues with businesses and value-added tax. Some errors found were underreporting of revenue, non-compliant VAT invoices, invoices without tax identification numbers, claims where taxpayers overpay on input tax, improper classification of sales activity, and businesses illegally collecting VAT.
We're seeing persons or businesses who have not registered for VAT charging and collecting VAT, as well as businesses that are registered but have not filed VAT returns and therefore have not paid the VAT collected to the government.
When asked why owners aren't paying their taxes, the acting comptroller said Bahamians simply aren't factoring it in.
And by and large, a lot of persons are saying, number one, they didn't know they had to pay taxes. But if you're talking about commercial properties, the owners, I think a lot of them just don't factor real property in as a part of their expense. And I think a lot of Bahamians really don't do that.
And if you fail to pay your taxes,
you will be automatically billed. If you fail to pay your tax that's due, a collection enforcement team member will contact you. If you have the ability to pay and still do not pay, we will garnish wages, we will garnish revenue, bank accounts, and other sources of income. Where appropriate, penalties, surcharges, and fines, and even collection fees.
And Kendino, with that massive amount of arrears, the acting comptroller is urging businesses and residents to comply and pay their taxes. Back to you, Kendino.
All right, thanks a lot. Our Bethany McDermott reporting for us in studio tonight. The Special Economic Recovery Zone, which allows those impacted by Hurricane Dorian to import designated items tax-free, as well as other concessions, is being abused. The word coming tonight from Department of Customs Assistant Comptroller Loretta Gomez, who says officers have discovered that individuals are bringing in items and then sending them to other islands. Gomez saying locals took advantage, with several tax-free goods ending up in New Providence.
We've uncovered a lot of goods coming through Waterski Dock, if I can just give that particular information. And we've collected thousands of dollars in additional revenue when we would have found out, for whatever reason or excuse that they used, why the goods ended up in Nassau. But we've seen that happen on a regular basis, and we factor that in as an abuse of that concession.
Under the SIRS order established by the Minister administration in 2019, VAT, import duty, and excise tax were eliminated on construction materials and other physical goods sold and brought into the zones. Discounts were offered on the VAT payable on the sale of real property tax for transactions valued up to $500,000, and exemptions were instated for import taxes on replacement vehicles. Gomez explaining that the goods are intended to remain in the zones.
In our investigative process, we've uncovered that a lot of goods that would have had concessions for duty-free concessions have ended up in Nassau and other islands. Now, the concession is particular for a certain area, and the goods had to remain in that area. So when those goods are filtered out of that area, then you know then that they would have abused that privilege.
Seems we are closer to seeing a livable wage, as a report that will guide recommendations for proposed legislation is expected to come in less than a week. Labor Minister Keith Bell confirming as much as calls for an increase in the country's minimum wage continues with rising inflation.
I cannot say that because obviously it is determined by cabinet, but I can say that I should be in possession of the report from the Department of Labor on Monday, which will direct on the National Tripartite Council, which will guide the cabinet of the Bahamas in terms of where we ought to go. And then there will be widespread dialogue and consultation with both the private and the public sector.
The minister, who could not provide specifics on what the bill will entail, having this to say.
It will indicate where the needle ought to go in terms of the livable wage and the eradication of a minimum wage.
Labor on the Blocks 2.0 is set to return this weekend and is expected to put some job seekers back to work. Learn more about that coming up. But first, the Davis administration insisting the country will see monetary benefits from carbon credits in a little over a year. And tonight, Attorney General Ryan Pinder is detailing government's plans to capitalize on the green economy. Jasmine Brown reports.
The Attorney General explaining the vital need for the Climate Change and Carbon Market Initiatives Bill 2022.
We believe that we could be seeing some of the first benefits from this initiative in the next 12 to 18 months. So certainly long before our administration ends, we expect to be able to see some benefits.
Pinder is not the only senior member of the Davis administration to link carbon credits and the country's debt. Minister of Economic Affairs Michael Halkitis has said the government is exploring avenues to use carbon credits for a lower cost of debt. While speaking at the Caribbean Renewable Energy Forum in Miami, Florida last Thursday, Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis insisted larger countries that significantly contribute to climate change should consider forgiving the climate change-fueled debt of small island developing states. Pinder detailing how it can also help the Bahamas get better interest rates when borrowing.
You would be able to use that activity to wrap sovereign debt. So ESG, environmentally conscious debt. And so what that means is if you borrow as a sovereign and you use the proceeds for environmental, social, or governance matters, you get a preferential interest rate. So instead of 8.5% that we may see in the open market now, because it's a specialized ESG purpose debt, you may get it at 4%, right? And then if you wrap it with a carbon credit that is monetized, so there's a security feature there, you may even get it less than that. And so those are the big picture kind of sovereign financing, balance sheet, monetary policy.
The Bahamas has more than $10 billion in debt. The Prime Minister says at least 40% of the existing debt is the result of climate change.
What we have to remain is nimble. We have to remain at the table. We have to remain in the rulemaking bodies and advance our people at the table to give our input. And so, we were committed to doing that.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
And still talking conservation, the Davis administration is moving towards greener transportation. Attorney General Ryan Pinder telling senators that the government is starting the process of making its fleet of cars electric. The AG says the move is one of several ways the government plans to reduce its carbon footprint and says more will be revealed about those plans during the upcoming budget debate. Well, clearer skies in the capital today. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with your first look. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Gandino, and welcome everybody for our first look at weather on this humid Wednesday evening. What a different time make. 78 degrees outside our studios with just a few clouds, some distant shower and some isolated thunderstorms out there. Winds are light east at 5 miles per hour, and factoring that relative humidity, it feels like the low 80s. On our satellite view, upper level trough swinging across the Bahamas kept us unsettled for most of the day. Showers and thunderstorms spreading across the northwest and central Bahamas, prompting the Department of Meteorology to issue some severe thunderstorm warning. That upper level system continues to move towards the east, taking most of the activity out in the Atlantic, but we still expect 1 or 2 more showers later on tonight through tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
All right, still to come on our news, investigators on the hunt for arsonists following a massive junkyard fire, plus the heartbreaking story of one family following a tragic car crash. And later, job seekers find out the opportunity that may put you back to work this weekend. That's coming up when our news returns.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Shamik.
Investigators on Grand Bahama say they are trying to find the person or persons responsible for a massive fire at DeVoe's Junkyard scrap metal in 8 Mile Rock. Arsonists are said to have set fire to several vehicles on the property. Police press officer ASP Stephen Roll telling our news that officers responding to a call just before 6 o'clock Tuesday evening.
The owners of the junkyard assisted with cutting a fire margin to help prevent that fire from spreading to other vehicles and pushy areas. The fire truck would remain on that scene while the vehicle pointed themselves out and was fully extinguished and posed no further threat to any other residents or property. Well, based on the initial investigation, the fire was started by persons in the area cutting up scrap metal. However, there were no injuries or damage to any of the properties.
The family of a woman who died in a car accident on West Bay Street on Saturday night says she was a joyful person who leaves behind 2 young sons. Jared Higgs has their story tonight.
Grieving family members tell me the woman who died in a car accident near City Market, West Bay Street, on Saturday night is 26-year-old LaShawna Taylor Sands, a wife and mother of 2.
I feel like our family events are not going to be the same, because I'm really looking forward to her coming back.
According to police, Taylor Sands was a passenger in a vehicle traveling west along West Bay Street. The driver, who relatives say was the woman's husband, lost control and collided into a tree in the median near the junction of Cambridge Avenue and West Bay Street. The 26-year-old died on scene while her husband and 2 sons were hospitalized.
She always say my son is hers. Always. No, I don't have her here anymore.
Taylor Sands' passing leaves her family crushed. They describe her as fun, bubbly, and humorous. Her cousin, 26-year-old Andronique Moxie, says they spent most of their time together as children.
It is hard. It's hard for me because we grew up together. It was just us 2, always just us 2 together. It was never no Nikki without Shauna, no Shauna without Nikki.
I spoke to Taylor Sands' relatives who are based in Freeport, Grand Bahama. The 26-year-old moved to Nassau 8 years ago, got married and started a family, giving birth to 2 boys, ages 3 and 7. She wanted to move to Canada, according to her relatives. When there, she planned to bring her sick mother to receive health care in that country. Her aunt, Delarice Roll, remembering her ability to bring people together.
See, LaShawna was always the peacemaker. Because every time you talk and you say something, she'd always, even if you want to have a dull day or argue, she'll always say something to make you smile.
Other relatives, like her uncle, Shimron Roll, say she was a role model.
She is a great example how a mother should be loving to her children. And I know she was a good wife to her husband. And she cares for those children. And that's how I think all mothers should care.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
When our news comes back from the break, amendments to the Immigration Act forthcoming as officials anticipate a surge in migration, plus a loss for the Marlins, but Jazz Chisholm stays hot. Find out the initiative that may put some job seekers back to work soon later on. We have the details when our news returns.
got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Shamik.
This is our news. Welcome back. Amendments to the country's Immigration Act may be forthcoming as the Davis administration is seeking to curb illegal migration to these islands. Megan Shepard has more.
Illegal migration into the country has long been an issue that successive governments have had to tackle, with hundreds making it across our borders, and in recent times the number of instances have seemingly dropped. But Immigration Minister Keith Bell says he expects to see an increase.
We are in the, I would say, the embryonic stages. There is a draft. However, we are looking at making certain amendments to ensure that we increase penalties for traffickers of irregular migrants. Secondly, it obviously calls for a stronger collaborative effort between all of the law enforcement agencies, both the police, the defense, immigration, customs, all of us, and not just us, but also members of the public.
Bell says although attempts have subsided, surges in illegal migration continue.
The information suggests that whenever we see one boat, there's one or two behind. And so the Defense Force is on alert along with the Turks and Caicos, along with the U.S. Coast Guard, and certainly the police force who have not even a less of a patrol at sea. And certainly so all the persons to those family islands, we ask you to be on the lookout, and certainly our fishermen on the high seas to watch out for these vessels. And not just for us to protect the Bahamas, but also ensure that we don't have a tragedy at sea.
Noting that the majority of attempts are from Haiti, Bell says there are several factors that play a role, including the assassination of their president, economic instability, and the lack of rebuilding efforts following a number of earthquakes.
Therefore, you have this outpouring of persons who are seeking a better way of life. And so you have these economic individuals, these migrants, who are seeking a better way of life. The Bahamas, with these fixed assets in this jurisdiction, in this area, we are just there, and so we have good prosperity, thank God. And so you have them coming here, and those who are not coming to the Bahamas once they get to the United States. And so therefore, you have this great influx. And we anticipate that we're going to continue to see it until we fix some of the issues and challenges with Haiti. It cannot be addressed by Haiti alone. It certainly cannot be addressed by the Bahamas.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
Jazz Chisholm stays hot in a Marlins loss and a grateful organizer. Thanks, Rev, for their help. Marcellus Hall is up now with sports.
All right, thanks, Candino. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Jazz Chisholm has come off with a great start to the season, looking to continue that last night as they took on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Jazz, another two-hit performance in this one. Here we go, 2 for 5, now hitting .313 on the year. Leads the team in RBIs as well as home runs. A great start once again. However, they do not get the win here as they go down 5-4 to the D-backs. They play again this afternoon. We'll see if Jazz can continue to swing the hot bat, this time in a winning situation. We'll see again and report that to you coming up for you tomorrow. Meanwhile, Rev getting ready to host off another pretty good initiative here in the Capitol as they are set to be one of the sponsors for what is going to be called the All-Pro Sports Weekend. It's going to feature professional football players and some other top-notch coaches around the U.S. They're going to be in town to host this one. Rev on board, one of the organizers of the event, talking about how good this is going to be, as also talking about how good to have Rev on board. Let's take a look.
Bahamas All-Pro Celebrity Weekend is essentially an event that this gentleman over here, I approached him about, and it's regarding revitalizing and strengthening the game of football, American football, here in the Bahamas. And so through some personal relationships that we had with some of the best football players in the world, and then, with reaching out to this genius over here, who essentially has been running camps for as long as I know, we were able to put this event together. But I cannot say that we would have done this without the support from Rev as our title sponsor, official title sponsor. So thank you so much to them. So Alice Guerrero, somebody that I reached out to really bring this vision together. And, I can honestly say that it is a dream come through.
Yeah. And that's your check on sports for you here on this Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Candino.
All right, thanks a lot, Marcellus. Don't go away. Greg is back in the Weather Center with your extended forecast, plus some job seekers may be back to work soon. Our Megan Shepard shares more on the opportunity. It's coming up when our news returns.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is
Welcome back to our news. It's time now for your extended weather forecast. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Greg?
Thanks again, Candino. Welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather. That upper level disturbance has moved across Florida, now across the northwest Bahamas, generating quite a bit of shower and thunderstorm activity. Unsettled weather pattern across us, and that will continue through the remainder of the night as a trailing trough hangs out across the central Bahamas. Most of the energy eventually will be pulling out into the Atlantic, but we will still see one or two more showers across portions of the Bahamas tonight to tomorrow. Behind that, high pressure will generate some very nice conditions. Hot temperatures, though, for the balance of the week, but that high pressure will dominate our weather into the weekend. Boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas tonight to tomorrow. Southeast to southerly winds at 10 to 15 knots. Those seas will be running 2 to 4 feet. Your winds will fall light and rebel at times. High tide will be at 11-18 tonight. For the southeast Bahamas, caution flag for you guys down there. East to southeast winds at 15 knots, and they will be gusting at times. Seas will be running 3 to 5 feet over the ocean, higher in gusts. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through next Wednesday. That's a look at our weather. Have a safe night and a better tomorrow. Back to you, Candino.
All right, thanks a lot, Greg. Well, this next opportunity we are about to tell you about is for job seekers still on the hunt for work. Megan Shepard tells us that the Department of Labor's latest unemployment effort, called Labor on the Blocks 2.0, is looking to bring together job seekers and employers on New Providence and Grand Bahama this coming Saturday.
While the Ministry of Labor is looking to provide job opportunities to Bahamians in order to address what is being described as high levels of unemployment, the Minister of Labor, Keith Bell, says he is unable to confirm the exact number of Bahamians considered unemployed.
But I am pleased to report that we anticipate that by next month, we have started the census of population. And so therefore, sometime next month, we anticipate to give you some numbers.
Director of Labor Robert Farquharson says that the last set of statistics are from 2019.
Prior to Hurricane Dorian, and the unemployment rate at that time was 14.2%. We know that as a result of COVID-19, the employment rate went up. And we also can confirm over the past few months, a number of employers has re-engaged employees and in all sectors of the Bahamas and in all islands of the Bahamas. And that's why it's so important for us not to give inaccurate numbers. We need empirical data that's compiled by the Department of Statistics before we are able to make those numbers accessible and make them known to members of the general public.
31 organizations on New Providence and 20 on Grand Bahama will be seeking to hire employees on the spot. Farquharson says that persons should come fully prepared with all necessary documents for occupations in various industries.
Qualified IT specialists, qualified plumbers, electricians, carpenters, people to work in customer services, particularly in the hotel sector. We need teachers, we need nurses. Most qualified nurses in this country are employed. We need AC technician specialists, we need electricians, engineers.
The minister is encouraging interested persons to attend the job fair, as he says he is committed to giving Bahamians top priority.
The Department of Labor have a very healthy labor bank. I will not be approving no work permit for anyone where Bahamians are available, but Bahamians must come forth to occupy these positions which are available.
New Providence's job fair will be held at the Columbus Primary School from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., while the job fair in Grand Bahama is slated to be held at Jack Hayward High School from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
If you are a job seeker and want to learn more about that story you just saw, visit Our News Bahamas on Facebook. Thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Candino Knowles. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Until then, have a wonderful evening.